So who is hiring? I'm seeing hiring ramp up in sectors that are crucial in the wake of the pandemic. So these are the essential workers and the frontline workers, which include healthcare, logistics, home delivery services, grocery stores, pharmacies, sanitation and cleaning services. Roles in these sectors or industries are, like I said, primarily frontline or essential workers. Some examples of companies who are hiring in Canada right now are Walmart. I think they just listed 1,000 new positions. Amazon has hundreds of positions open. Companies like Apotex, they're a pharmaceutical company. They're essential workers and they're hiring at the moment. They're hiring everything from scientific positions to logistical positions. Metro grocery stores, they're hiring for full-time and part-time employees for distribution center and for their grocery stores. And then on the online front, we've also seen a surge in demand for workers in sectors that touch this online or digital space. And this obviously includes services that increase social or physical interactions, like Airbnb is not doing so well. But others like cybersecurity, technology development, and remote work and learning specialists, they're doing quite well. And they are continuing to hire right now and scale. Some sectors and companies are faring better than others. So services, online services like online groceries, ordering your groceries online, or cloud computing, video conferencing, they are doing very well and they are hiring across multiple roles and functions. Others who have relied on customer or advertising spend have seen like a real surge in use on their platforms, but they've not seen the same surge in revenue because individuals are cutting their costs as our businesses, they're decreasing their advertising spend. So those are more companies like Pinterest or Yelp. Here's some examples of the kinds of companies and the companies that are hiring again in Canada right now. Top Hat. So Top Hat is an education software company for professors and teaching faculty. Mainframe Studios, they're on the West Coast, but they're all remote roles and they're an animation studio. Dialogue, they're virtual healthcare workers. Obviously they have a lot of roles and are highly in demand at the moment. Zymeworks is the biotechnology company. Spare Labs, which is the tech platform for on-demand mobility. Companies like FreshBooks, which are virtual accounting software. Hootsuite, which is a social media scheduler and digital learning. There's a company called Thinkific, I think it's how you pronounce it. It's an amazing company and it's an online community and platform developer. And as you can imagine, with everybody moving into self-isolation, the need for being able to connect through online has scaled. So anything sort of touching that space, we're finding that there is hiring opportunities in there. And as I said, for most of the companies I've listed above, they're hiring across multiple business functions. So you might think, oh, well, it's technology. Some roles for sure are technology, but there's also accounting roles, there's marketing roles, there's finance, there's distribution. As I said, it's across multiple kind of business roles. I've put together a couple of job search resources. So it can be an effort to go out there and see who's actually hiring. So you've got your standard job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn, or Google has jobs now too. But sometimes it's hard to find the smaller companies or the smaller opportunities that haven't been paid to be boosted up to the top of the list. There was one individual, I don't even know who it was actually, created an entry-level remote work website, which is whfpad.com. It's right there. A whole bunch of people in the tech space and startup space launched a new platform. It started out as a Google document, and it's called the Help List. And basically, if you've been made redundant and you're in technology, or if you have been made redundant and you worked for a startup, you can add your name to this list so that recruiters who are hiring can go in and go through some of the talent that's in there. It also has a list to a whole bunch of startup jobs and technology jobs in there too, which is really neat. Early in March, another list came out, which was a crowdsourced list of Canadian companies who are hiring. So again, this list it's expanded a lot right now, so you still have to sift through and have a look, but it gives you a good idea on who is hiring, the kind of companies that are hiring, and how to really target in on your job search strategy. In some cases, the hiring spree is a result of this sort of surge in demand, like I talked about a bit earlier. And in those cases, the roles are going to likely be contract or freelance positions, which will probably end when the surge dissipates. This includes roles like Walmart frontline positions and or expert consultants in remote working and infrastructure development, for example. For others, this is going to be a long-term growth strategy where companies are looking for full-time and permanent staff to help grow their service offering. So those kind of roles are like with companies like Thinkific. So they've got a new community platform. People's mindsets have been changed completely with social isolation. And what before was maybe a social community, not everybody kind of needed it. There's been a huge surge in people using it and connecting it and finding they really like it, so that even going back to normal, this opportunity is not going to dissipate back to where it was before, but it is still going to continue to build. I think some trends are really going to stick coming out of this, which is quite neat. Right. So that's just, I'm not an economist, but I do read a lot and I do watch the job boards and the trends and everything else. And from what I can read and what I'm seeing, this is really what's happening. Also, we just did a survey of hiring managers and recruitment managers and HR managers in Canada. And this is all consistent with what they're saying as well. So what does this mean for you in your job search strategy? Looking at sort of the next 3 to 6 months? Well, I see a few options. The first is do what you have to do to keep your family and your household safe and well, which is look after your own health, your family, your community. Do what you need to do. So for some, this might mean hanging up the job search altogether and caring for children or relatives. And for others, it could mean taking whatever job that you can find in order to pay the bills, or accepting work that's below your desired level of expertise or pay. And there's no judgment and there's no rules right now. It just comes down to doing what you need to do and doing what's best for your family. The second is more of a strategic job and client search. So the job market, we sort of, in the last month, went from a skills shortage to a very crowded and very competitive job market. So you're going to have to change your tactics and strategies a little bit, but there are options and opportunities out there for you to pick up momentum while the world sort of recalibrates. And then the third option I see is innovate. So disruption means the rules as we know them, they no longer apply. So consider, how can you take advantage of that? Are there opportunities there? Because there is a good chance that there are things that you can do now that maybe you couldn't do before. So it all depends on your unique situation and the current market conditions. You know, you also might need to just change your own expectations of what you are able to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months, which is okay. I don't think we've been through a pandemic like this before. Everybody's learning and sort of figuring it out as we go, and there's expected to be some adjustment time as well. Right, so I just want to dive a little bit more deeply into the strategic job and client search. So if you do have the time, inclination, and need to actively look for a job or clients, if you're a freelancer or sort of employ a portfolio strategy with your career, there are things that you can be doing now to succeed. So start first by identifying where the opportunities are now. So who is hiring? What kind of companies are hiring? What kind of industries? What skills are in demand right now? So really trying to figure out where those opportunities are. And I've talked a little bit about it, but deep diving into the research as well is going to give you a good lay of the land. And the other thing too is you're never going to get the jobs you don't apply for, and people still need to fill these jobs, so it might as well be you. So keep going after it. But take a look back and look at your transferable skills, and based on what the market needs right now in the research you've just done, see how you can address that need. It might mean rejigging your resume or supplementing your skill set with some online learning. But also keep in mind that this job isn't going to make or break your career. So really to go in this with an open mind. You don't have to get hung up on staying on your old industry or your old specialism. If you can take your skills from one industry and apply it to another, that's going to be really helpful, and there are going to be opportunities to do that. I would target companies that have a longer track record of working remotely, as I mentioned before. So I actually have a list, and Carrie, I'll send it to you, but it's a list of fully remote organizations. You can Google it if you want. I think it's called, it's a Google document. It's called FROGS, fully remote organizations. I don't know what the others stand for, but they're going to be the ones who are most likely to weather the impact of uncertainty and have roles that will continue once things settle into the new normal. For them, the impact of this will probably be on profits and revenue, but having to switch from an established workplace to a remote workplace, they'll have already done that. So their operations or their business as usual will be less disrupted. I would say to get really familiar with remote technologies and add them to your resume, and really talk about your remote work successes. In the survey we just completed, the #1 skill that hiring managers were looking for is adaptability and resilience. So how can you show that in your resume and cover letter? And I'm sure that the team here at the Career Foundations can help you do some of that, but really communicating those skills that yes, I can adapt, yes, I am resilient, yes, I am a problem solver. Employers are also digitalizing their recruitment process to further deal with this increased demand, but also to deal with the social distancing. Having face-to-face interviews has gone out the wayside, so now they're done by Zoom, by Slack, by other remote communication tools. Make sure you know how to use them and communicate that you know how to use them as well. And then also get familiar with how applicant tracking systems work to really optimize your resume to stand out on that side of things. And basically, I always think of job search as marketing 101. So it's still really important to customize your resume. Think of it as the job description is, hey, here's what I'm trying to buy. What are you selling? So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're selling matches what they're buying, and they're telling you exactly what they want to buy in the job description. So pay attention to that and customize your resumes, because as a hiring manager myself and working with many hiring managers, the effort you put into your resumes is noticed on the other side. Right. So second is standing out. So your personal and professional brand just got even more important. How are you going to make sure that you stand out in the crowd to get noticed? The digital space just got very, very noisy. So have a think about, how are you showing up online? Do you have a LinkedIn profile? Is it complete? Are your Facebook pictures private? Do you want anyone to see those Facebook pictures? Does your LinkedIn picture look like you? What happens when someone Googles you? What turns up? What do you want to turn up? So employers are going to shortlist through the applicant tracking system, and then they're going to do their research on who you are, and they will make a decision in 5 to 10 seconds. But you have an opportunity to control what they see and how you present yourself. And now more than ever, as people are turning to the digital space, this is very important. If you're a contractor or freelancer, how are you going to showcase your expertise and present yourself as a leader? So how are you going to be perceived as knowledgeable in your field? So again, think about where and how you're showing up and come up with a personal communication strategy. This may sound like a big deal, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be about writing thought leadership pieces and articles and white papers, but it can mean commenting on posts with insights and being of service to others. Again, I always think of it, if I was an employer, what would I want to see? What kind of knowledge, what kind of professionalism on these platforms would I like to see? And one of the most important factors is activating and building your professional network. So this job search strategy really hasn't changed. And if you don't think you have a personal and professional network, you do. You can start with, family members or friends or the parents of your children's friends, but get curious and start asking a lot of questions. And always, when you're building a reciprocal relationship, think of how you can be of service. And honestly, this can be done from the comfort of your own kitchen table, and it can be done through social resources and platforms like LinkedIn is a free platform. And that's where the majority of employers hire through. So getting on LinkedIn, understanding which groups are out there that you can join and start conversations and continue to show up. Again, think about, if you're thinking about where you want to be seen and how you want to be seen and by who you want to be seen, you can really get specific and target and get in front of those people. Yeah, because basically at the end of the day, even if people aren't hiring right now, they're going to be hiring eventually. And you want to make sure that you are staying top of mind so that when it is time to hire and they see your name come across the desk, they make that connection and they're more likely to pick you out. And finally, I would suggest innovate. So as I said before, sort of disruption means the rules as we know them no longer apply. So how can you take advantage of that? What can you do now that maybe you couldn't do before? So maybe it is a career change. If this is something you've been contemplating, maybe now is the time to explore. Again, if you've got the capacity and the ability to do this, and it really doesn't have to cost a fortune. In fact, there's so many online learning portals that have opened up their platforms and learning for free. It's a really good time to upskill and take advantage of that. You can also get job experience by volunteering. So with all these small businesses needing help, think about your ideal employer and where you want to go and things that you want to do and target them and offer to volunteer. It's a great way to get some on-the-job experience. You can think your career pivot, so you can go in and you can try something, and if it doesn't work or you don't like it, you can try something else. But it is really a good time to get out there, try different things, do a bit of on-the-job learning, and also then you've got something to put on your resume, you've got a reference, and you've got increased chances of getting employed in the future as well. It's a good time to set up virtual coffee meetings to learn more about an area of interest if you are going to do a career pivot. So you just have to keep in mind and be cognizant that some industries and some people are going to be busier than others. I wouldn't go approaching a frontline worker at the moment or someone in healthcare to sit down, but other industries are going to be slowing down, and people are going to have they're going to have more time on their plates to talk about some of their passions as well. And that's one thing I've learned as well in this business, is that when people are passionate about what they do, they love talking about it. As long as you're curious and ask questions, it can be really quite a fun experience. You can also try exploring something new altogether. So maybe you had a hunch about a product or services that might be in greater demand now more than ever. Maybe you can see an opportunity that no one else can. Again, if you've got the time and the ability, really get curious and explore. So what better time than now to see a new need in the market that's come up? What's something that really bothers you that you wish you had a solution for that's out there that doesn't exist yet? Start by asking questions and making observations. I use a tool called the Futures Wheel to help me think bigger than first order consequences of change. And I find that really useful in stretching my thinking. And finally, I'd suggest build your own opportunities. So if you see a need or gap that your services could fill, go for it. What have you got to lose? All the rules, all bets are off right now. So it could be applying for your dream job that's based in another province and then making a case that you can do it remotely. But I would say think creatively and propose solutions. Going back to the skills that are most in demand right now, adaptability and problem solving, they're really going to stand out in this time. And I can tell you as a business owner as well, a lot of companies have decision fatigue. So if someone comes in with a fresh approach or a solution or an offer to help in a way that makes a lot of sense, it's going to make it a lot easier for somebody to say yes. And that's my 2 cents there. So I'm happy to take any questions now that you might have. Carrie?
Okay, perfect. I'm back again. Kyle, are you able to see any questions there on your end?
Yes, I am.
Okay, amazing.
So, yeah, I guess we were disconnected, or Carrie got disconnected halfway through, so I just came in as a backup. So I have a couple of questions that came in when I came in around 12:15.
Okay.
So this one is from Gemma, and she's wondering, or she mentioned in a comment that since February and March, I am getting these messages from hiring managers. It says something to the vein of, as a result, the hiring process for this position may take a bit longer than it normally would. Rest assured that we have your application on file and we'll process it as soon as possible. We'll be in touch. So I guess from that end, is that a good sign?
I think I would say those companies are probably in the hibernation mode, as I talked about, in the first slide, which is they are still hiring. They've just got more on their plate right now and more pressing HR challenges that they have to deal with and sort of get through. So I would say, yeah, absolutely, keep applying, because they still need those positions, or chances are they still need to hire for those roles. So I would say stay positive and follow up maybe in a little bit. But yeah, I would keep applying for roles and keep going at it.
Mm-hmm. And what about those of us who are looking for stable, secure, long-term skilled work and have graduate degrees? The tech and gig industries are notorious for low wages, no guaranteed hours, no benefits, and skirting taxes, not allowing contractors to invoice GST/HST. It's precarious work that is often not following the law.
Yeah, well, I would say, as I said earlier, I have a list of companies that were remote beforehand. And you can also check on company research. You can also research companies' cultures to see how they do hire and how they do treat their employees through sites like Glassdoor. Even Indeed has sort of a rating as well. But look at who's been in business for a long time and sort of who will be less disrupted. So going to a startup tech company, I mean, they're going to be more precarious right now than a company that's been on operation for 15 years and operating remotely and been doing really well and who has a positive culture. So again, it comes down to really targeting doing your research and targeting companies who you want to work for.
Perfect. And I know you mentioned a few resources throughout the presentation, and assuming we could compile some specific websites for online learning, things like Glassdoor as well, to do some research on other companies. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I see a question from Adriana, and I want to answer that. Sorry, which is
sure, go for it.
How can we volunteer if we're supposed to stay home? Any suggestions? Absolutely. So there's actually volunteer sites where you can volunteer in a professional capacity on projects. It's called Catch a Fire, and there's a link for one. So that one's based in the US, but there's another one on the West Coast, and it's all online volunteer projects. Also, you can reach out to not-for-profits. People still need marketing done, finances done, business development and strategy done. So from a professional capacity, using your skills in that sense, a lot of that stuff can be done online and virtually.
That's great. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jennifer. We've come to 12:30, and I apologize that I left for a little while. My internet was a bit unstable. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciated it, and we had a really good turnout. And thank you so much for taking the time to answer a few questions at the end as well. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'll compile a list of some of the resources and links I spoke to throughout here, and then happy to share them or send them around to anyone who's interested.
It's wonderful, and we can send them out to the attendees, so that's perfect.
Great.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone for attending. I really hope you have a great rest of the day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye everyone.